Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Planes, Trains, and Comic Books channel. My name is Matt, and today we're going to review the graphic novel Clementine. But before we get into that, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing, subscribing, commenting, it really helps me out and lets me know what you guys want to see more of. So, with that being said, let's get straight into it. So in case y'all didn't know, this is actually a Walking Dead based comic book, but it's not based on the comics or the TV show. It's based on the Telltale video game series that came out over the last 8 years or so. And what that is kind of like a choose your own adventure series that's set in the Walking Dead world. And that series follows a girl named Clementine from age 11 or maybe even a little younger than that to 15. So this graphic novel picks up her storyline when she's 17 years old and she's on her own. So we got the cover here for this graphic novel. It is an image book and it is by Tilly Walden. So like I said, we start off with her walking by herself. In one of the video game storylines, she lost her left leg, partially at least. So she's having to walk around on crutches in the wilderness, and she has kind of a little peg that she's fashioned. And while she's walking, she, of course, runs into zombies and stuff, and she's able to take them out for the most part. But she gets attacked by a small horde, and while running, her wooden leg snaps, but she's able to fight the ones that were chasing her off because she's pretty resourceful now. She's been living in this world for a while now. And one thing I liked is that when she does fall, she kind of gets disoriented and has a flashback of her as a little girl when she met Lee, the first guy that ever protected her in the Walking Dead game. And she's kind of saying I wish he was still here now. But of course, Lee isn't there. And this happens throughout the comic. There's a couple key scenes where she does flashback, and it's a good callback to the video game series. So she still moves on after she breaks her leg, but she comes across a couple girls who are walking around outside of a village that they live in. And of course, she tries to hide because she hasn't had that good of experiences with villages or just people groups in general. But the girls hear her and they end up at first drawing guns on her, but then they talk to her and they end up liking her. So the girls invite her to their town, and in the town they say there is a man who does prosthetics. So they take her to him and he gives her a new prosthetic that isn't made of wood, it's made of metal. And it's got kind of a belt harness that clamps under her leg, and there's a lot more padding and stuff, so it should help a lot. And even though the girls are very adamant, Clementine, after getting her foot, is no, I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to keep moving, because she doesn't like to stay in unfamiliar towns, or at least stay for a long time. So when she's leaving, she sees another kid who's driving a buggy on his own. And they don't really say it in this, but that settlement is an Amish settlement. So she meets this boy who's driving a buggy on his own, and his name is Amos, and he's on his Rumspringa, which a Rumspringa in a Walking Dead world is much different than a Rumspringa now. So at first, Clementine isn't really interested in staying with this kid or not, but he's so innocent and nice, she kind of can't let him be on his own. And one thing I liked is they give us all these montage shots of just the stuff they've gone through. There's a couple pages of these, but this is one of them, of their time together as they travel. And until this point, there hasn't really been a motivation or a place for Clementine to go. She's just on the move, just generally north. But as she talks to Amos more, he tells her that he's going to a place up north as well, but it's some kind of village that needs help preparing for winters. And as part of their payment for coming up there and helping them, they take you on a plane ride. So that's why he wants to go up there, because he really wants to fly in a plane. And at first, Clementine's kind of unbelieving of this, but he assures her that he's seen the plane fly over. He talked to a guy that was there and worked there in the winter. So Clem kind of joins him on that trip, but just until he gets there, and then she's supposed to leave on her own. So they actually end up making it all the way to this lift that will take Amos up to the town. And by now it's already winter and it's snowing a lot here. So as they approach, two girls come out of the lift office, I guess, and they don't introduce themselves. They don't give each other's names, but later on, Clementine refers to them as left and right. And right away, they're pretty gruff. Amos is all happy and everything because he is excited that he finally made it here and he's gonna see a plane. But these girls are no nonsense. So because the girls are so gruff and not trustworthy to Clementine, she decides to go with Amos here and at least make sure that he's okay before she moves on, because he's so innocent. And when they get to the top of the mountain lift, there's another girl waiting up top named Rika that also introduces herself, and she seems a lot nicer. So they all walk to the camp together. And for the most part, the camp is exactly what they think. The only bad thing is that every now and then there are little avalanches and and stuff that come around. And the avalanches are small, I guess, because they don't really tear apart the buildings fully and cause them to need repair. So in the midst of fixing up the camp and the houses and stuff there, one of the things that needs to get done is they need to take a generator that has been fixed over to the other lift on the other side of the mountain that will take them down to the area where there is the plane. They were told they could cross this ravine with a bridge, but when they get there, the bridge is out. So they decide they're going to try to lower the generator down, and then they could take the bridge across and then lift it back up with the ropes that they lowered. And in that process, something happens and they end up falling. And in this ravine, there are undead because it's kind of thawed a bit at the bottom. So they get in quite a pickle here. And that's where I'm going to cut it. I don't want to spoil anything else. This comic was fantastic. I really liked the story of it. At first, I was kind of like, hey, this doesn't have the same feel as the Walking Dead comic. It's taking a longer time to build up these characters and stuff. That's because it's for people who haven't necessarily watched the Telltale games either. So you want to get to know Clementine a lot, kind of see how she is. And then also you have to introduce the new characters. And one thing I liked about the new characters is they're all children. There was very few adults in this. And in most of the Walking Dead content out there, the adults are the one who are fighting the zombies and things like that. So to have this group of kids who have grown up in the Walking Dead world, essentially since they can remember, it's very cool to see how they interact with each other. They don't have a memory of a time before. They've only heard stories from their parents. So they're very cool characters to kind of explore in this world. Another thing that's interesting about the story is because you have to be introduced to these characters, it's a little bit of a slow burn. I mean, there are always zombies kind of attacking and stuff, but they don't seem like that big of a threat because these people have lived with them. So it's kind of like they're swatting mosquitoes as they come down and attack, unless it's like a big horde or something. But I like how the author kind of takes her time and like throws in little elements of the horror to like remind you, oh yeah, this isn't just about kids kind of playing Lord of the Flies or something. We're still in this zombie world and it's still dangerous wherever you go. But I gotta say, when the action kicks off, like when the inevitable betrayals happen and everything, because no matter what, if it's a Walking Dead comic, if you find people, eventually it's going to go bad. No one ever stays nice or sticks together. So when the bad stuff goes down, it goes down hard. I gotta say, the last third of this book was crazy, and I definitely felt on the edge of my seat the entire time reading it. So I thought it was done very well, and I guess the buildup from before that took a while was paid off extremely in this. I liked the art a lot as well. The author is also the artist, so she did a great job of capturing that black and white Walking Dead feel. I will say, because it's black and white and she has a looser style than the artist that was on the main Walking Dead book, sometimes I was unsure exactly what was happening in the panel. But it didn't happen very often. Out of a 227-page black and white comic, that's bound to happen a couple times, especially when you have zombie attacks and, in dark situations and stuff, you're trying to get the mood right, but you also want to show enough detail. So that was like my only criticism of it. Now, as far as reading this, if you've never played the video game, I think you can. I think if you understand the Walking Dead world, they introduce you to Clementine and give you enough time with her that I think you will not have any issue picking this up and reading it. But if you have read the video game, I think all of it has like another layer of meaning and context to it. So as someone who's played the games, I really liked being able to continue with this character and find out what happens to her. And Tilly Walden did a great job continuing that story. So I'm going to give this book a 5 out of 5. I unfortunately read this book at nighttime, and I had a hard time going to sleep that night, not because of the graphicness or anything, but just because the story got me excited. It made me want to learn more about what happens. And also at the end of the book, they tell you that there are 2 more books coming out. So this is not our last time with Clementine. We are still going to be following her and her adventures in the Walking Dead world. So this is just a fantastic series overall. And I highly recommend it if you're a Walking Dead fan of either the show or the video games or the comics. You don't have to know anything about Clementine's story to pick this up and read it. And like I said, it's a good hefty 227-page graphic novel. And also, it's only $15. So that's a really good price point for a book that's this awesome. So if you saw anything you like, definitely go pick that up at your local comic book store. And we will see you all in the next one.